Let's start with our today's video conference topic. The inner talk and the psychological sound. Well, it's crucial, it's essential to know where our inner talk comes from, right? When we talk about our inner talk, it's in relation with a person, with an event, or in relation to anything that already happened, or that probably will be happening. Right? Also is in relation with something that is already inside in our psyche, in our mind. Alright? In opposition to this inner talk is the inner silence. With our external tongue, probably we are very sincere, very prudent. We are in silence, right? But unfortunately, with our inner tongue, we skin alive others, alright? Probably outwardly, we are in silence, but inwardly, for sure, we talk a lot about others' lives. That's why it's very important to learn to make silence internally. To be in silence with our inner tongue. Also, at the same time, it's great to learn how to make silence with this external tongue, with our physical tongue. It is necessary at the same time to make silence with our inner tongue, alright? To experience this called the inner silence. It's possible through the technique of meditation to experience the inner silence, to empty our mind. But we are not talking about it here in this specific explanation. Alright? Because commonly from instant to instant daily, we are thinking too much about different things of our lives and others' lives. Alright? We do have our inner tongue in continuous activity. And it's due to the reality that inside of each one of us there are different psychological flaws, psychological defects. Alright? So thanks to the practice of self-observation, it's possible to detect our inner talk. Alright? not only with the external tongue, but also with the inner tongue, in relation with an event, with a person, something that is being told, etc., etc. To learn to make silence with our inner tongue, to stop this inner talk, it's necessary to observe our emotional center. The inner silence is possible through the practice, through the technique of self-observation, detecting our emotions on the side of the self-sympathy. Alright? We love ourselves too much. We are 100% narcissists. As long as we continue loving ourselves the way we are doing and we've been doing, it wouldn't be possible for us to delete our inner talk. We waste a lot of emotional and intellectual mental energy with our bored inner talk. Alrighty? If we want to put peace in our hearts, in our minds, it's necessary to delete, to stop this inner talk. And it's only possible first through the meditation of it, through the practice of self-observation, to know how hypocrites we are, for example, with others, how false, how double we are with others' lives. By learning to don't judge, criticize, or laugh at anyone else, we'll experience our inner silence. And it's amazing when we experience it. If we continue with this self-sympathy, any type of advance in our own process, the process of the self-realization, would be something more than impossible. To detect our narcissist psychological flaws is crucial and is essential to delete them in order to stop to delete also for sure our inner talk. Alright? If we observe our wrong inner talk, we'll see that it's made of half-truths. Right? They relate to one each other in an incorrect way, because it depends on our own prejudices, concepts, ideas, and of our own narcissist inner situation. Right? At the same time, it's necessary to delete self-sympathy. from each one of us. Because unfortunately, to the one that is not agree with us, due to this reality inside of each one of us, we could feel even hate for that type of people. I am not generalizing, I cannot generalize about all psyches. But unfortunately, we love ourselves too much. Who we are to love ourselves too much? We are nobody to love ourselves too much. Who we are internally. Only 3% of divine spark. And the other 97% of our consciousness is trapped inside of each one of our psychological flaws, or also called psychological defects. Do we love our ego? Due to this ego, if anyone is not agree with us, probably we could feel hate for others' lives, for others' concepts or ideas, resentments, rancors. And it produces confusion. Unfortunately, this inner thought produces confusion because it's made of half-truths. Better than feeling only self-sympathy, better than loving ourselves too much, it's better, for sure, to put ourselves in others' shoes. We should learn to see others' point of views. Right? And it'll help us for sure to stop our own inner talk. Remember, many times in our lives, with our external, with our physical tongue, we may be prudent, sincere, diplomatic, etc., etc. But internally, we skin others alive with our inner tongue. Alright? To stop that inner talk, it's necessary to put ourselves in others' shoes, to delete this narcissist situation of each one of us, to stop feeling this self-sympathy, and better than that, to put ourselves in others' shoes. What really matters in these esoteric studies, is the way we treat each other's internally. Physically, it's easy to be nice, to be prudent, to be nice, to be cool with others' lives. But what really matters in our studies, in our esoteric studies, is the way we treat each other internally. Without the physical tongue, without the physical eyes. Alright? As much as we can, I know it's easy to say and difficult to act like this, but as much as we can, it's better to treat others the way we would like to be treated. Starting with this type of analysis, of feedback, of reflection, it's possible that sooner than later we stop, we delete our own unbored inner talk. To experience finally, sooner than later again, the inner silence, which is the goal, which is the purpose, the inner silence. Right? Thanks to the practice, thanks to the open possibility of applying in our daily lives, the self-observation, we may detect the different psychological defects, the different people, invisible people, all those people that talk with half-truths and create this inner talk that for sure produces confusion. One of the other tips to reflect on is the observation, the analysis of our emotional center, of our lower emotions. Remember, always on the side of the self-sympathy. Stop being this, please. Because it's better to learn how to put ourselves in other shoes. Alright? And with the inner petition to our Divine Mother, gradually, grain by grain, little by little, we'll feel peace inside. Alright? Deleting, eliminating all those concepts, theories about a person, about an event, about what is being told, about anything. It's possible to experience our own inner silence. Right? Now let's talk about the psychological sum. It's the moment to talk about something called new relation, obviously intimately associated with this called psychological sum. To talk about something called or named self-consideration. When we self-considerate ourselves, we love ourselves too much. It is not correct, it is not right to feel self-compassion. When we love ourselves too much, We can't see others' point of views. We are full of pride here. I want to clarify before to continue with our video conference with our topic that both the inner thought and the psychological sum are mechanic aspects of human psyche. Due to this reality inside of each one of us, the capital, the causal defect of pride, we do feel too much self-consideration. We love ourselves too much. We feel self-compassion. And this is one of the worst things to advance in our psychological and spiritual work. It's necessary to delete any type of self-consideration, alright? To stop blaming others. One of the most common types of self-consideration is are all those worries for what others think or say about us. All those worries for what others think or say about us are one of the most common ways of self-consideration. We cannot control what others say or think about us. Please, let's remember that always. Forget what others say or think about you. Just try to act positively, correctly, in a right way to others' lives. Compassion for others or to others is great, but self-compassion is the worst if honestly we want to advance in our own secret path, esoteric path. And again and all over again. Thanks to that practical tool called self-observation, it's possible to detect all those self-compassion psychological flaws that we do carry in our own psyche. If we continue loving ourselves too much in extreme, going to the extremes, in that called self-esteem, we'll continue wasting too much emotional and mental energy. Alright? And all this happens when we make the mistake of identify with ourselves. When we are not self-observing our minds, we get identified with ourselves. Who we are internally? Ego. That's what we are internally. Unless we are in an inner vigil of self-observation. As soon as we self-observe our own thoughts, emotions, etc., etc., we light our divine spark, that 3% of consciousness. But if we are not self-observing ourselves, unfortunately, we are controlled by our ego, and we make the mistake of identifying with ourselves too much. If honestly we want to detect this self-consideration, this self-compassion, all these worries by what others think or say about us, to don't get identified with ourselves, please start with your own process of self-observation. That's the first practical tool of inner transformation radically. To stop with your psychological song. When we love ourselves too much, it's difficult to learn to forgive others. It's almost impossible to forgive others. That's why it's being told, and we already said here previously in the explanation of the inner talk, that one of the best things we can do in our lives is to learn to see others' point of views, to understand others better, right? To stop with that inner tongue. The more we love ourselves, the less we'll forgive others. Alright? Remember always, please, and this is to analyze, to take it to the reflection. The more you love yourself, the less you forgive others. That's essential to analyze, to reflect on, to finally understand. Alright? It's necessary to, with urgency, learn to forgive others' mistakes. It's necessary to learn how to be tolerant instead of being permissive. Alright? If we continue with this self-esteem, going to the extremes, loving ourselves too much, we'll accumulate gradually, little by little, more resentments. More resentments, rancors, hate, etc., etc. But if we learn to sooner than later to put ourselves in other shoes, we'll understand others' ideas, others' beliefs, and we'll be more tolerant people. Alright? Instead of only loving our ideas, loving our concepts, loving our theories, etc., etc. That is also called self-compassion to the extreme. Right? The real advance in the esoteric things, when we talk about our spiritual secret path, is only possible if we learn to forgive others. Right? To advance in the different levels of the inner being, is necessary to first learn to forgive others. But as long as we continue with that extreme love to ourselves, we won't advance in our own esoteric process. Stop with that inner tongue, with that self-esteem, with that self-compassion, please. Delete your own self-compassion. It won't bring you to the authentic freedom. Release others' lives. Let's learn to forgive others' mistakes. If we do it like that, it's more than absolutely possible to continue advancing in our secret path, in our own spiritual path. Right? The authentic esoteric student for the real and honest student of esotericism, that type of students never allowed in their minds, in their psyches, lower emotions. Lower emotions as, for example, hate, anxiety for what others told us, for what others did to us, rancors, envies, etc., etc. Alright? Deleting all these type of lower emotions, negative thoughts, for example, we talk about negative thoughts. We talk about different types of worries, right? For example, but deleting all these negative, subjective, all these, yes, subjective aspects that all of us, without exception, carry inside of our psyche, is possible to stop, to delete this psychological sound. Alright? There is a superior law instead of these lower laws, teeth by teeth, and an eye by an eye. There is a superior law called the law of mercy. It's better to put ourselves under the influence of this superior law than continuing with this bored psychological song. That feeling, that bored song, that others owe us something due to anything, will stop us in the process of our own advance in the spiritual path. Right? This is a new influence. And obviously, it is intimately associated with the art of forgiving others. Alright? If we sooner than later don't learn how to forgive others, we won't be forgiven. If divine law sees that we are honestly trying to do our best to learn to forgive others' mistakes, they will treat us in a very different way because this is a superior law. This is mechanicity, revenge. Obviously, all these worries, hates, anxieties, rancors, envies, resentments, and so on, only create more and more revenges. And the origin of all those revenges are our own bored psychological songs. With the self-observation and the inner petition to our Divine Mother, in order to delete all these lower emotions and negative thoughts, we'll put naturally, sincerely, from the bottom of our hearts, under this new and superior influence, the law of mercy. And for sure, if we want to pass to a superior level of the being, it's precise to not be what we are right now. At the same time, it is essential. It's crucial in our own spiritual advance. Because if we continue being what we are, we won't pass to a superior level of the being. Right? Many times, not always, but many times, we want to find someone else that understands ourselves. Right? Only to listen to our psychological song. All our resentments, our past life, all our history, right? Based on these half-truths. And if that person doesn't want to listen to us, for sure we won't like that. And we'll continue trying to find anyone else that do listen ourselves, our own psychological songs. and our own psychological songs and without exception, all of us carry inside of ourselves our own psychological songs. These psychological songs produce a new psychological defect called the defect or the flaw of sufferings. And many times we feel pleasure letting others know what we already passed to be what we are today. Right? All the different sufferings, pains, difficult events that we already lived to be what we are currently. That is mechanism. It's necessary to delete all those past and present sufferings. Because with all those bored psychological songs, it's not possible to advance in our own spiritual path. To finally achieve and deserve our own self-realization. And without exception, for sure, all of us, we carry our own inner thoughts and our own psychological songs. If we didn't stop our inner thoughts to experience the inner silence, deleting all those psychological defects, the natural consequence of it will be a psychological song. Alright? Sometimes we express verbally our psychological songs. Sometimes we only do it mentally. And for sure, the inner talk and the psychological song produce confusion, frustration, failure. Better than remembering always what others did to us, what we already passed to be what we are right now, is better to forget. It's better to forgive, to start a new cycle in our own process, in our own inner process. Instead of claiming to the life what we apparently deserve, it's better to vigil ourselves, to detect and to finally delete with our own inner mother all these psychological defects that produce our false and bored inner thoughts and psychological songs, to put ourselves under this new influence, the law of mercy. Right? If we learn to forgive, we'll be forgiven. Alright? And we'll release ourselves sooner than later. For sure. And with that unique technique we have here, which is the one called psychological death, the inner petition to our Divine Mother, as soon as we see all these different psychological flaws, psychological defects, controlling our minds, our emotions, our lives, previously detected with a self-observation, we may start a new cycle in our lives, a new life, creating a new destiny. All these inner thoughts and these psychological songs control our lives since dozens of human existences. We are only repeating currently our last human existence, the previous one we had. Stop and believe your inner thoughts, please. Stop and believe your psychological songs. They don't allow us to continue and to change our destiny, to achieve and to finally deserve our own self-realization, the authentic freedom. These are chains. These are chains. We need to break, to delete, to eliminate literally all these chains to get the authentic freedom. Better than loving ourselves is better to learn to love others. And it's only possible when we put ourselves under the law of mercy. An eye by an eye, and a tooth by a tooth is something mechanical, due to our own psychological flaws. Delete them, and we'll change our own destinies. Alright? The psychological song produces the psychological flaw. It must be deleted. Yes, and we express our sufferings in psychological songs verbally, but also we express our own sufferings in psychological songs mentally. Both of them must be deleted for our own good and also for a common good. Thanks, and have a nice day.